It's David Wowie from Another Eden Adventures, and I have a quick video for you about one of the game's best support characters, Yipha Another Style! What makes her so good, and how is she responsible for making even the weakest characters crazy strong and the strongest characters deal billions of damage? I'll tell you how, and I'll tell you the best Graster and equipment for her too. And if you have your own tips for Yipha Another Style, share them below, man. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help this community grow. And if you enjoyed any part of this video and are feeling extremely generous, feel free to give me thanks. It's my birthday this month too. I want to make this video as quick and as easy for you to understand as possible so you can hurry up and beat the boss you're stuck on. I personally use Yipha AS for two moves. Her Faith move on turn 1 and her Bianacht Boa move every turn after that. Why? I'll tell you bloody why. First, Faith does all this stuff you can see on the screen. Screenshot this if you want to study later, but essentially we want to use Faith for this line here. Promised Blessing, add Spirit divided by 2 of caster to all stats of target except for HP and MP, Spirit limit 600. What does this mean, David? What this means in plain English is that when you use Faith, you get to pick one character in your team you want to give a massive boost of stats to. The precise amount of boost is determined by the level of Yipha Another Style Spirit divided by 2. So if you have a basic level 80 Yipha AS, you might have a Spirit level of 202. Divide that by 2 and you get 101. So with the Faith skill, you essentially increase all of one specific team member's stats, such as their power and intelligence, by 101. So use Faith on turn 1. On turn 2, as I mentioned, use Bianacht Boa. Is that how you pronounce it? Bianacht Boa? Or is it Bianacht Boa? Or is it Biana Boa? I don't know, someone tell me. By itself, Bianacht Boa preemptively increases critical damage of all main and reserve party members for 50% by one turn. And in the same turn, it increases the damage, power, and intelligence of all weapon type users by 50%. Basically, it makes everyone about 50% more powerful. And here is the beautiful part. Remember that character you boosted with Faith in turn 1? As well as receiving that 50% boost from Bianacht Boa, that character's buff effect and type attack will double, making them extremely strong. Now let's see this in practice. Let's start with everyone's favorite character, Samora. By himself, Samora does about 1.5 to 4,000 damage per hit, as you can see here. But let's chuck Yipha AS in there and do the two moves I told you about. Turn 1, nothing much happens. But let's see turn 2. Samora ends up dealing about 44,000 damage, which is more than 10 times the damage he normally would have done. Now let's try this with a stronger character like Minolka. One hit of Minolka's Rip and Tear does about 430,000 damage on turn 1, and one hit of her Rip and Tear does about 740,000 damage on turn 2. By the way, look at these candid shots of her, man. Aren't they hilarious? This second one looks like she's giving someone a well-deserved backhand. Now let's chuck Yipha AS in there. On turn 1, Minolka reaches just over 700,000 damage per hit of Rip and Tear, but turn 2 gets juicy. Thanks to Yipha AS, Minolka deals over 11.5 million damage per Rip and Tear hit.
What? 100,000? Ay, ay, ay! I didn't count on this. This is insane!
So now do you see the power of Yipha AS? The only downside is because the second skill, Bianacht Boa, only lasts for one turn, you need to have her using that skill on repeat until the end of the battle. Which I suppose can be actually a good thing because you don't need to think about what Yipha AS needs to do for the rest of the fight. For your entertainment, what I like to do is I like to stack Yipha AS with other support characters. For example, if we add Iffy and Tsukiya Alta in the team to support Minolka as well as Yipha AS, we're getting about 163 million damage per Rip and Tear hit. And if we do something similar with Yakumo, we get an epic deletion attack where he deals 578 million damage on its first strike, followed by close to 300 million damage on its subsequent 2 strikes. By the way, if you want me to break down how I dealt this much damage with Yakumo, I'll do a text post here on YouTube or on Facebook, so subscribe and follow. So what equipment should you give Yipha Another Style? Remember, Yipha Another Style's faith skill becomes more effective the more spirit she has, so load her up with as much spirit as possible. For badges, you can get a Spirit plus 35 badge from the Megapolis mid-layer blacksmith for 3,800 bearings. This is all the way in part 3 of the main story, so if you haven't reached it yet, I've included a link to a badge list in the wiki where you can find the most appropriate Spirit plus badges to where you are in the game. For Grasta, load Yipha AS up naturally with Grasta that increases her spirit. At the moment, I can think of 2 big spirit boosting Grasta. The first one comes from the Wisdom of Curses Grasta, which you can get by trading with the captain in one of the secret cat side quests in the Charal Plains, Cat Road. If you want me to make a video about this, let me know because it was hard for me to find out how to do this on Google. And you can get the other Spirit Grasta from Sebastia's lab during the Trial of the Sealed Malefics, Extreme Stage 1. Both these Grasta, once awakened, give you plus 10 spirit. You can also upgrade your Grasta with the longly titled Light / Shadow Endurance / Luck / Spirit Plus Ore, which is an upgrade ore you can use to further increase your Grasta spirit. This can be randomly won by completing the Underworld Another Dungeon runs. Once again, I've added a Grasta list to my description for you to see a full list of Grasta that may be weaker than the ones I mentioned, but still helpful to where you are in the game. Also, if you're watching this from the future, you might find even more effective Grasta in this list that I've included. If you're confused about Grasta, I've also linked an easy to understand guide in the description for you. So what weapons and armor should you give Yipha Another Style? As of the time of this video, there are 2 weapons that can help increase Yipha AS's spirit, and they're not necessarily endgame weapons either. And the weapon you want for Yipha AS depends on how many light points you have. The first is the Ultimania Hammer, which at max level can increase Yipha AS's spirit by 20. You can screenshot this here on how to get it. The second is the Time Restored Hammer, which you can craft at the blacksmith from the materials you get by playing through the Tower of Selection, which comes from Apocrypha Chapter 3. The unique thing about the Time Restored Hammer is this weird formula here that I'll have on screen, which essentially means the more light points your character has, the more spirit it will give that character. For example, if your Yipha AS is 32 light, the weapon will give her 22 extra spirit. So if you're low on light points, use the Ultimania Hammer. If you're a bit higher on light points, use the Time Restored Hammer. Remember, to get the most benefits out of these weapons, you need to upgrade them to level 10. With the details of how to upgrade them in the screenshots. Shout out to Best Boy for giving me tips on these weapons and Grasta and for explaining this formula to me because I had no idea what it meant. If you need help understanding light and shadow points, check out my guide after watching this video. The link's in the description. It should hopefully make things easier for you. In terms of armor, you can use the Grace Armlet, which you can unlock by playing Apocrypha Chapter 5. Screenshot these instructions on how to get it. So remember, if you want to greatly improve the attack level of one of your characters, use Yipha AS, especially her faith and Bianakbua skills. To make her more effective, increase her spirit via badges, Grasta, weapons, and armor. And to be absolutely amazing in this game, like and subscribe. I'm also now on Twitter, baby! See you soon.